if you could deal with a flat iron, or if you can manage on the stove, then using a power saw or I don't know, a power drill, it's not much different. Even if something has scared me, like I said, trying to operate a saw, I've never tried to let that fear operate me.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Tyra Chatman. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
Good,
How
good.
Are you?
Doing well. So we'll jump right into it. Tell us who Tyra is and tell me about Whatlovebuilt.
Well, Tyra is a middle-aged mother of two, married for now 5 years, and someone who loves to rehab her home, clearly. So.
Got you. So when you started posting Whatlovebuilt materials, what was the thought process? Was it just a hobby? Were you looking to build something that you can monetize?
Man,
how did it start?
It started as a hobby. I had no idea it was going to go to the level it is now. Yeah. I started posting on my personal Instagram account really only because my friends and family were invested in our new home that we purchased. Okay. So I just wanted to keep them in the loop. And before I knew it, I was doing projects around the house and more people were asking, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? So one post turned into a viral post, and followers later, I'm kind of here now. So.
Got you. So you have, I believe, like over 70,000 followers on Instagram,
yes.
Over 4,500 subscribers on YouTube.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you grow that following? And it grew pretty fast, right?
Yeah, and kind of out the woodwork in the sense of, the pandemic happened last year, so I had all this time on my hand, not to just post consistently, but really just to work on my home. And from that, the following came, and honestly, that was still unexpected, because I want to say I woke up one Friday morning, looked down at my phone, and notification after notification. And I'm like, yo, what happened, or what's going on? And so I go and check my following, and I want to say I was jumped literally from 3,000 followers to 20 in the matter of 24 hours. Wow. So it was one of my posts that ended up going viral, and the funny thing is, going into the new year, I was like, oh, I'm gonna start putting more effort into my YouTube and my Instagram. Yep. So my goal for the end of 2021 was just to try to make 10K.
Got you.
And it literally happened the middle of January, and I hit 20. So.
All right. So you talk about that following growing from basically 3,000 to 20,000 almost overnight.
Literally.
Now that you have that following, how do you engage with your followers?
Trying to stay consistent, and so continuously posting as much as possible. Instagram has this algorithm set in place so that, if you're not posting every day,
you don't get seen.
Yes, not at all. People start to lose interest. So you definitely have to stay consistent.
Sure.
And not just really consistent, but relatable. So a lot of times, to kind of help with my engagement, especially if it's days that I don't have a DIY plan.
Sure.
I show them what meal I'm cooking, show them, y'all, I'm a mama too. My house is a mess right now. So sometimes I really like just paying over my house just so, hey, this is real life. It's not always cute and nice in here. And in turn, people really appreciate that, because you come off as relatable, as I like to be. Because not everything is cute all the time. So, and a lot of people start to respond to that and see that you're genuine in your post.
Got you. So you talk about having this huge following. You're thinking about giving them consistent content, really showing your authentic self. Tell me a little bit about the pros and cons of having such a large following. Start with the cons first.
Well, trolls are real. The trolls are real. And honestly, I say that. And so far, I've been blessed in the sense that they've been very, very few on my page. So, but they're there. I've actually had a couple accounts that I've blocked because the negativity was like, how did you even pull that from a nice
How do you deal with that
post?
negativity?
I block.
You block it, just
I don't deal with
get rid of it.
I don't deal with it. pray for you and yours and delete.
Got you.
Like, I don't feed into it because I feel like it is probably a wormhole.
Sure,
so
sure.
I feel like if you feed into it, then it'll probably, start questioning yourself, questioning your posts. And my intent has always to be genuine. And I mean, the name Whatlovebuilt is intentional on my part because I really do try to operate in love. And whether I know you personally or not, my genuine care for you, even if you are just an eye from 20 miles away or 200,000 miles away, is really just to show you some kind of love and affection, even from afar. So a lot of negative posts I don't feed into. I just let it die.
Gotcha. So talk to me about the flip side of that. What are some of the pros of having such a large following?
So it's two things. So if we're talking just the route of having an audience that you get to, kind of show your life and like I said, build genuine relationships with, then it's nice because a lot of people really do feed into that, and you get genuine conversation from people that you'll probably never even meet in real life. The influencing side of it is that brands like it. Brands love the large numbers, so you get to be seen more, and the sponsorship deals start to come. So that's always a plus to put a little more money in your pocket.
So talk to me just about DIY in general. How did you get started in DIY? What are some of the benefits of DIY? Because you said you were really just working on your home, and that's how this all came about.
Yes, I'm a very cheap or frugal person, I like to say.
Resourceful.
Resourceful, I like that.
There you go.
I'm start using that.
Resourceful.
Because when we had our home built, and I had, I'm from South Dallas. South Dallas is straight hood, straight ghetto. And if we talk about being resourceful, I grew up watching my mom, try to make ends meet at home, including a lot of stuff that had to be fixed. We did on our own.
Sure.
So when it came to, full circle and I'm building my own home, I wanted to save pennies. It doesn't matter if I have the money or not. I want to save money. So sometimes hiring contractors or asking the builder to do an upgrade, it just seemed a little expensive.
Yeah.
So I've always been the type of person like, let me just see if I can attempt it myself. If I can, I can, let's get it done. And if I can't, really hire out. But what happened was I can do it.
There you go.
Now I'm doing it all the time. So.
Gotcha. I heard you talk about, growing up, being resourceful, your mom fixing things, and I know you're big on woman empowerment when it comes to, learning the home improvement side of things, working with power tools. I see you got the workshop in the garage, and that's your workshop.
Absolutely.
It's your power tools, it's your lumber. So talk to me a little bit about that woman empowerment movement when it comes to, home improvement, power tools, DIY projects.
Honestly, when I started, I never even thought it would kind of touch a lot of women in a certain way, because a majority of my following base is women, and a lot of them always say, how did you get the confidence to do this? And honestly, I can't even tell you outside of just the consistent practice of if you could deal with a flat iron, or if you can manage on the stove, then using a power saw or a power drill, it's not much different because it's the same level of caution that you have to exercise.
True.
So honestly, that's kind of where it started. And like I said, because a lot of the women followers were just like, I want to do that too. Then I wanted to feed into that. I wanted to let them know, especially since I've seen a single parent household where my mom was managing it. Well, I do know that there are a lot of other women out there that are trying to do it by themselves and don't always have someone to call, a handyman to call on to get stuff done. And you don't always have to have a handyman. You be the handyman. Do it yourself,
Yeah, it's interesting that you said, like, hey, even though I was scared, I pushed through it. Whether you're male or female, when you get behind the wheel of a car for the first time at 15, 16, you're scared, right? When you pick up, a camera for the first time, when you do something with a computer, you're not, like, it's always that level of fear or that level of caution. But talk to me about your resilience to push through and say, hey, I'm gonna do it anyway.
So I am an Army vet, but and a lot of people like to see that because I have that on my Instagram post. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it honestly came from the armed forces, so to speak. I feel like that's always the kind of person that I've been.
Sure.
Even if something has scared me, like I said, trying to operate a saw, I've never tried to let that fear operate me. because you can get stifled in it. You really can. My growth, or the growth I like for others to see or to be inspired by, is that it doesn't matter if you really are afraid. 9 times out of 10, you should be afraid.
Sure.
But it's that same fear that should turn into caution, so that when you are doing it or you decide to pull up the courage to actually use it, then you're doing it not out of fear, but out of caution. And so honestly, your work comes out better that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You respect the power tool.
Exactly. Exactly. On Pinterest, I want to say I probably found it on maybe even Wayfair. I decided to mimic a build. So this one I'm actually super proud of, because these 45-degree angles, if you in the DIY world, know that that's not an easy task. So this is probably one of my proudest.
You complete stair remodels, laundry room remodels. I know you're working on the bunk bed for the boys now. Tell me, what's been your most difficult project so far? I know they all have their quirks, I'm sure.
They do. They really do. And I don't want this to come off cheesy in a sense, like, none of them have been hard. All of them have been hard.
Okay, I got that.
And all of them have been hard in the sense that, and I tell the people that follow me, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
There you go.
And I say that in a sense that I always do my projects and I learn as I go. If I had to absolutely name one, I would probably say the stairs. And I only say the stairs because I was intimidated going in. Stairs are such a structural importance in the household. So
Sure.
I didn't want to jack nothing up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have my, kids sliding down the stairs. So that part, I think I would call it the most challenging project that I've done. But looking back on it, it actually wasn't as hard. And the irony is that while I feel that way about the stairs, I've done 3 other stair projects since then.
Wow.
And I've enjoyed each and every one of them. So the intimidation factor kind of went away after my first attempt.
Gosh, you said 2 very interesting things. You were like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I feel like a lot of adult life is I don't know what I'm doing. There's no manual on raising kids.
Nope.
There's no manual on marriage. There's no manual on DIY projects. You can watch a couple of videos, you can read a couple books, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what you're doing. But you said another interesting thing, I learn as I go.
Yes.
So tell me just where did that mindset come from? Was it really just I'm a doer, so I do it and I learn? Where did that idea and that mindset come from?
Even in school, if I want to go back probably as far as to fundamental mathematic type stuff, right?
Sure.
I've always been a hands-on person, and I just feel like it makes more sense to me when I'm doing it. Literally, if my hands are touching it and it's a tangible product that I'm seeing at the end, then somehow it resonates with me a little bit more.
Sure.
And which I actually think that's probably why DIY has become my niche, in that I actually get to touch it and make it work. Like I said, one of the things I do like to do is learn as I work, in the sense that I can always go back and whatever YouTube or guide or Google manual that I'm referencing, I can work my way through those actions. Even if I do mess it up, then that's the one thing that I've kind of taken out of my, stifling fear of doing DIY. If I mess it up, I mess it up. At the end of the day, it's just wood, it's just sheetrock. But if you have to deal with a hole in a wall for another month, I've been there. You just gotta let me come back on Tuesday when I have some confidence behind me to come and now figure it out until I get it. And then once I get it, I'm just gonna keep doing it until I perfect it.
Gotcha, makes sense. So I know this started off as DIY projects, working on my own home, but building the following, people seeing your work. Now you have clients and people reaching out to you to do projects. How did that transition happen? Just tell me a little bit about some of the other projects you worked on.
Well, now, and honestly, what I've learned here recently are contractors are really kind of unreliable, and not all of them, not all of them. But a lot of the people that are my potential clients always say, I can't find a contractor, or they're charging me these crazy prices, which honestly I've also learned too is legitimate because the work isn't easy. And it's the price of lumber right now is super ridiculous. But that's what I've learned, or that's what the general census is that contractors are hard to find and not always reliable. And because a lot of my following is women of ethnic background, then they always I guess, find something relatable in the sense that, yo, if this sis can do it, man, I want to do it, or I want to hire her to come do it because I see the way she's operating and moving.
Got you. Yeah, I know we created a documentary last year about Black men in medicine, and it's like you can't be what you can't see. And so what is the importance of being that woman of color in this DIY field? And I know you have others, you talked about the lady in Atlanta that's doing it. What's the importance of having someone that looks like you doing something like this?
It's super important. And like I said, even more super important for women that look like me, because just like you said, if you don't see it, you don't know it exists. I.e., you don't think you're possible or capable of doing it.
There you go.
And one thing I like to tell people who reach out to me in my DMs is, I would love to have half your talent. And I like to let them know, it may look like talent, and I'm not going to disregard it as not, but that talent might lie within you too, because those same fears, those same hesitations, I also have them. I just try my best to push past them. And I think that when you see someone or you feel like someone is relatable to you in your skin tone or in your raising, then it becomes a little more easier to accept that, okay, maybe I do have what it takes to work on my own home.
So you were talking about being someone that's relatable, whether it's to minorities, whether it's to those who come from economic disadvantaged backgrounds. You talk about fixing homes, building wealth. Most of Americans' wealth is built through their home, right?
Yes.
So just talk to me a little bit about that for you and your platform.
So I feel like it's super important, not even just as a homeowner, but giving the standards that I kind of grew up in, where it wasn't the prettiest. I've had definitely humble beginnings. It's important for me that in some of those areas that are still at an economic disadvantage, it's important to try to keep up with those trends, because again, for me, that's how generational wealth gets lost. That's how, the home that my mom worked 30 plus years to keep can get lost if I'm not keeping up with the standards, because the city want to come in and they want to, revamp the area and build a townhome, across the street, and then all of a sudden taxes shoot up, and so, you're lost. Your home is lost because you can't keep up. And a part of doing my DIY and a part of, doing these consistent upgrades is to kind of keep up with those trends, so that, instead of me losing my home, then let me rip this sucker out and match that income. I could pay off my mortgage because, I have some renters that want to come in and pay double and triple than what I initially paid for it.
Sure. It's not in the show notes, but talk to me a little bit about the Black family unit, right? You and your husband married about 5 years now.
Yes.
Got the 2 boys. You got the home. You're DIYing, making it beautiful. Got the corporate job. Got the side hustles. You talk about rich dad, poor dad, different streams of income. That's not the life that you were raised in. Single parent household. Same thing for me. But talk about breaking those generational curses and talk about the Black family unit.
Man, the older I get, and especially after I became a mom, the more important I saw to leave my children, my sons, with something. We know African American men don't have it easy.
Sure.
And I remember when I found out that I was pregnant with my second boy, and I just immediately felt this sense of urgency to make sure not only he, but my oldest were secure in their future. And so the things that I kind of had to learn, maybe the hard way growing up, I want to make sure I've instilled in my own family, instilled into my boys, so that when they're older and it becomes their families, that generational wealth continues. And not just the wealth, but the knowledge of it continues. Because sometimes just having that money is not a, end all be all, but you have to have that knowledge to kind of keep up, to make sure you're good, your family's good.
Yeah, got you. And you said something interesting earlier. I know you reference it as talent right now, but you talked about deliberate practice. Hey, I practice using the power saw. So was it talent, or did you work on it, right?
I think both met each other somewhere down the line. And I only say talent because I always like to acknowledge that, God, I didn't know this existed within myself. Like, I don't, had I not, my husband and I attempted to build our own home or go through those practices, I don't think I've ever would have tried.
Sure.
And I'm a very biblical person. Faith without works is dead.
There you go.
So if I've never ever used it or never even took the opportunity to see if it was something within me, then I don't think it would have grown. So you can't have that same talent and not practice it and think you're going to go somewhere with it.
Got you. So you talked about it. You're a wife, a mother of 2. You have a career. You also have this Whatlovebuilt platform that you're building. How do you manage?
Sleep. Sleep where you can.
There you go.
I try to manage by giving everything a little bit of balance. Like, I know some weekends I'm like in and driving in on my DIYs, and it's like, okay, you know what, Sunday morning, let me put it to the side. Let me focus on some family time, or let me focus on some prayer time, or let me focus on something self-care.
Sure.
Because everything really is about balance. Like, if I spent my whole week working on DIY, I probably would be tired of it and exhausted. So I try to do everything in doses.
Gotcha. Makes sense. And then what's next for Whatlovebuilt? I know I've talked to you and you and your husband about maybe seminars, and I see you're doing like power tool training on your IG stories, right? So what's next for Whatlovebuilt?
The sky's the limit, the way I feel right now. So I am working on a few things. One of them, and I'm just going to say this might be a little bit of an exclusive, but I'm actually getting everything together to start holding workshops because a large amount of my following says, man, I would love to sit side by side with you and see how you work through that. And so that may be coming sooner than people expect.
Awesome. And so I know you have a career, a 9 to 5. Like I said, you talk about motherhood and trying to balance all of that. But talk about that potential transition from your standard corporate career to doing Whatlovebuilt full time, right?
Yes.
You talk about starting and making that jump. What's been your thought process around that transition?
So we talked about fear, right? If I have to be completely transparent, that's one. I'm not going to, declare it as fear, but that's one thing that's really got me shaking a little bit because that consistent 9 to 5 check looks so good.
There you go.
And to have it just stop and have to know that, okay, I'm gonna have to get out and really, like, for real, get it on my own. It's a little bit of intimidation behind it, but I'm, again, not deterred. I'm just trying to be more strategic about it. So I grew up listening to this book, Rich Man, Poor Man. I don't know if you, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sorry, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And for some reason that always settled with me because I always thought, if I ever got to that point, I need to find what all those streams of income look like,
Absolutely.
like tangibly for me. And now that Whatlovebuilt has taken life of its own, it's really becoming something that I want to work for. And so transitioning from that 9 to 5, my income on my entrepreneurship side is going to have to probably meet and exceed
There you go.
in order for me to make that transition clear because, I have babies. We got to make sure the babies eat. Boys, people like to say girls are expensive. Boys are just as expensive.
Yeah.
So, I just got to make sure I meet and exceed where I am now.
Got you. Is there anything strategically that you're working on to prepare for that transition, right?
Yes. Outside of brand sponsorships, trying to get those together, as many as possible within reason.
Sure.
Working on my workshops that are hopefully coming real soon. And then I eventually at some point want to do like a home essentials line. So, candles, little towels, anything that in your home that us women love to go out to Target and buy.
Yep.
I eventually want to reach that level.
There
Who
you
knows?
There you go. And the last thing I have is, what advice or inspiration would you give to other women who are looking to start their hobbies or their projects, right? What type of advice would you give them?
Well, two things. So, because I feel like if we're talking about hobbies, and to be honest, not all women are really into DIY to my level.
Sure.
So I always say find your niche, right? Find what it is that makes you comfortable, because to me, that's where the growth of it comes from, is something that you're comfortable in, and then everything else that comes as a benefit just feels like extra.
There you go.
And then in the sense of, let's say DIY really is your niche, then don't give up on it, because there are going to be some trials, there are going to be some hard processes. I tell you, I hate math, and DIY actually requires a lot of math, but I don't let it stifle me, because guess what? There are calculators now. Thank God for Google to get us through some of those numbers, so it's not as hard for you. So if that's what you want to do, don't give up on it. I promise you, there is a resource for it.
Cool. Well, that's all I had. I appreciate your time and inviting us into the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you.